In this video, we're going to look at using a stack to convert an expression from infix to postfix. So previously, we've talked about the infix and postfix syntaxes of like operator, sort of opcode, operand arrangements within an instruction. And we looked at how to use a stack to evaluate a postfix expression. But we've been making the postfix expressions uh, sort of in an awkward way, and now we'll show a convenient way to do that. That will involve a stack. So here we go. So just a review. Let's imagine we have this long expression that we want to that is infix, and we want to uh, convert. And what we will do in this initial awkward way to convert is look at the order of operations and figure out sort of what we have to do first and sort of surround each thing in parentheses. So the that sort of innermost parenthesis, we have that 3 times 2, and we throw it into parentheses, and we just sort of keep looking at what it is that we will be sort of doing first or next, and sort of putting parentheses around it to sort of really sort of emphasize the precedence, the order of operations. And then we will go to those sort of innermost parentheses, sometimes a little bit in parallel, finding the innermost parenthesis of different sets of parentheses and converting from the infix to the postfix. So instead of operand, opcode, operand, switching it to operand, operand, opcode. So from infix to postfix. And then we sort of work our way out of from the innermost parentheses and making the conversions. And then once we convert something, we will sort of keep that structure intact and not make any other arrangements. In here, I am sort of holding on to these parentheses that I'm going to throw at the end. But once I've made an infix to postfix uh, conversion, then I have made it red. So I'm working my way down, getting sort of redder and redder. Okay. But uh, and then if you want to go the other way, if you have a postfix expression and you want to understand what the corresponding infix is, in some sense, you just imagine yourself as the stack because you could evaluate this thing the stack. So let's not perform the calculation, but at least see as we are thinking of a stack of like what comes next. So if you encounter 9, 8, 7, those are all numbers. These would be put on a stack, and then I would be adding. Then I encounter the plus, and I would be adding 8 and 7. I'm not going to perform the calculation, but rather put the 8 plus 7 in parentheses in infix, and then carry on to the next. And I don't change the order of the numbers in this. We only work with the operations. So the next operation we would encounter would be the asterisk after the 6. So I would put it between the two things before, the 7 plus 8, now being thought of as a number, and the 6, and just sort of carry on that way. So that would get us from a postfix to an infix if we had a desire to do that. But what we want to do is go back to the converting infix to postfix and perform it sort of in a more convenient and in a more efficient approach. And so what we were doing before is sort of figuring out, sort of passing over the whole thing and saying, what do I do next in terms of order of operations? What do I do next? What do I do next? And sort of figuring out all the order of operations and then working sort of from the innermost to the outermost. But there is a way to write this sort of with one pass through the expression converted from infix to postfix, and it involves uh, a stack not to evaluate but to convert. And so that's what we're going to look at now. So the when we're converting from infix to postfix, we keep the numbers in the order we find them. So when we encounter a number, we don't have to do anything unusual. We're just going to put it straight into our postfix expression. So it's going to be the operators, and because of the precedence and all that, the operators are what we have to sort of work harder with. And so they are going to be the more difficult part, and that's where the stack is going to become. So we're going to have a stack that we're going to use to sort of handle our operations. Okay, so we're going to work through the expression. We're going to start on the left and work toward the right. If we have numbers, if we have operands, we're just going to put them in our postfix expression. So we're going to have this developing postfix expression, and if we encounter a number, it just gets put onto the expression. It's the operators, the op codes, where we're going to have to do some thinking, some playing, some working with this operator stack. Okay. And as normal, the stack, all we have access to on a stack is the top. So we're comparing, we'll put some operators on the stack. We will be encountering new operators as we're working through the expression, and we'll be comparing this new expression to what's the top of the stack to figure out what it is we will do. Okay. So I imagine some operators may be already on the stack, and I encounter a new operator. If the new operator has a higher precedence, I'm going to push it on the stack, because I may encounter something with an even higher precedence, so this may have to wait. So I encounter a higher precedence, new operator, higher precedence, put on the stack. If I encounter an open parenthesis, automatically on the stack. We'll talk about parentheses, the open and the close, in a little more detail in a minute. If I encounter an operator, if my new operator has a equal or lower precedence, then I'm going to go ahead and take those operators of equal or lower precedence off my stack. I'm going to pop them off my stack, add them to my expression. I'm not performing the expression, I'm just converting the expression. I'm going to add them to my expression, and then put that new operator onto the top of my stack. Okay. And then just particularly about parentheses, the open parenthesis always gets added to the stack. And a right parenthesis means that I'm going to pop off everything until I find the match, the matching left parenthesis of this right parenthesis that I'm encountering as my new operator. And I don't put the parentheses into the postfix expression, but anything that I encounter between the right and the right, which is my new operator, and the left, which is somewhere on my stack, anything I encounter on the in between gets put onto my expression, but the parentheses are not put in my expression because postfix has no parentheses. Let's give it a whirl. All right, so here we go. That same old expression, 9 to 1 with parentheses and the additions and the multiplications. First thing I encounter is a 9. It's an operand. It's data. I just add it straight to my expression. Plus, put it on the stack. Open parenthesis, put it on the stack. 8, operand, data, add it straight over to the expression. Plus, what was on the top of the stack was an open parenthesis. Whenever the top of the stack is an open parenthesis, whatever I encounter goes on the stack. 7, data, gets added to the expression automatically. Okay, the next thing is going to be a close parenthesis, a right parenthesis. I'm going to pop off anything between the open. I'm going to pop things off the stack until I find the matching close. So I'm going to pop off that plus that's currently at the top of the stack. And then I'm going to have the left parenthesis that matches my new operator, the closing parenthesis, the right parenthesis. So my plus got added. So that is the plus. That's the 8 plus 7 plus the original plus before the open parenthesis that was after the 9. That is still there. I encounter next a multiplication. It's a higher precedent than what I have on the stack, and so I add it to the stack. 6 is data, and when I encounter data, it goes over to the expression. Next, I'm going to encounter the plus. It has a lower precedence than the multiplication. It has an equal precedence to the plus, so I'm going to pop off what's on the stack currently. I'm going to pop off the multiplication because it has a higher precedence. I'm going to pop off the plus that's currently on the stack because it has an equal precedence. And then I'm going to put the new plus that we see between the 6 and the 5. That's going to be added to my operator stack. So there you see the multiplication that I popped off, the plus that I popped off, and then that new plus is what's on the stack. The next thing I'm going to counter is the 5, simple data onto the stack. Next thing is a multiplication, higher precedence than what was on the stack, so we push. Open parenthesis, we push. Data we add to our expression. I'm going to encounter a plus, but it's following what's at the top of the stack is an open parenthesis, so we always push after an open parenthesis. The next thing is going to be another open parenthesis, so we always push an open parenthesis. Then we encounter 3, which is data. Data always gets added immediately to the expression. I'm going to encounter a multiplication next. It's following an open parenthesis. If the top of the stack is an open parenthesis, we always add to the stack. So there's the multiply. Next thing is a 2. It's data. Data is added to the expression. Okay. Next thing we're going to encounter is a plus operator. And we see at the top of the stack is a multiply, which is of a higher precedence. So we're going to pop that multiply off and put the plus on the stack. So we see that multiplication over there after the 2 and the plus now at the top of the stack. I encounter a 1. 1 is data. Always add data straight to the expression. Next thing I'm going to encounter is the close parenthesis. I'm going to pop off everything between this new close parenthesis and its matching open parenthesis on the stack so that that plus at the top of the stack is going to come over. I'm next going to encounter a second closing parenthesis. So I'm going to pop off everything on the stack until I find the matching closing parenthesis. And again, the parentheses are not put anywhere in the expression. So I'm going to add another plus to the expression. And now I'm at the end of the expression, but I still have operators on the stack. So I'm going to pop them off, first the asterisk, then the star, and add them to my expression. And there we have it. So that is a way to use a stack to handle our operators to convert infix to postfix in a single pass. that's what I wanted to show in this one. Thanks for your attention.